we nominated Drew Marshall for this particular project because of its high profile and the detail that was needed to carry this off. This harvest is a variable retention harvest. It's at a location on the OSU Research Forest that is highly visible.
We are about a mile and a half, 2 miles from Corvallis, so we're very, very close. The forest gets a little over 155,000 recreation visits a year.
We have a trail right off to my right that is a very popular trail, and it goes right through the heart of this particular harvest.
So our ask to Drew was to treat this kind of with kid gloves.
It's not just making sure those trees are left behind in the places we want them, but also not damaging them. There's nothing worse than having all these trees that you invested all this time, particularly along a place where people frequent, and the aesthetics are highly important, and see a bunch of trees that are banged up, barked up at the base.
They were really concerned with the high volume of people being around there. They want it to look nice. So you just didn't want to scar a tree because it's nothing you can just cover up. That's something that's going to be there for good.
We have no stream up here, but the trail kind of acted like a stream in that you didn't want to harvest and have the machine going over and on that trail back and forth. And so the plan that he came up with was to fell trees below in a parallel fashion below the trail, and then process them and then swing them with the grapple to a road below the trail. And then once that was done, came back around and above the trail and harvested those trees and swung them up to a upper road.
I cut it all tree length. And they were big and they were really tall. So just sometimes you got to set it down and swing the top over so you can just direct them through the timber a little bit easier, because that's what I found that worked the best. And then the hiking trails, they were running through it. I was allowed to cross them, but they didn't want them just tore up. So you had to try to keep them out of the main roads, you keep them out of the trails, keep them away from the houses, and that was a challenge just because they were tall and they're heavy. That time of year, the sap's running, the trees were really heavy, I noticed, so they didn't move around the easiest.
There is the financial risk that Drew ends up taking, both from, time is money, and we all understand that. And so taking the time out of his day from processing logs to go and talk to a neighbor who's standing at the closure wanting to know what's going on, to answer those questions. Even to creating some of our slash piles. You can see some of the piles up the road here. Smaller slash piles instead of some larger slash piles, knowing that we've got homes just over the edge from us. So we want these slash piles to torch really quickly and then burn out. Retention of our large woody debris pieces. If it's pie plate or hard hat size and larger, leave it out of the pile. Those risks and that time to create more smaller piles versus just being able to kind of throw it all in is on Drew. We didn't give him any additional funding for that.
Most logging operators probably don't have to work with the public very often, and so this put him and his equipment and his reputation, as well as the research forest, really front and center. What I like about Drew is that he's very low-key, mild-mannered, and is really good at talking with the public.
We had some neighbors that popped up right to the fire egress right there, and I came up and Drew and his shovel operator Don was sitting there explaining what we were doing. They were asking how long it was going to be closed for because they want to be able to hike the trail, and he did a great job of just answering the questions and being an ambassador. After
we did all the logging side of it, I left and did some other stuff, and my operator stayed behind and finished loading out. He did all the cleanup. He did above and beyond awesome job. It's very hard to find good help, and I'm pretty lucky right now. I have an absolutely awesome crew.
These types of harvests, I think, are going to become more important, especially on that wildland-urban interface where you have that mixture of forested land and urban growth. These are important projects for us to do, and having a contractor and a logger who's able to meet those different objectives is really important for us.
The work that Drew did here was phenomenal in that hardly any damage to trees, as well as the time he spent talking to people and to neighbors.
We've had the public that has contacted us, sent us emails and messages on Facebook, on our Facebook page, saying it looks great. For us, that's a win-win. That's that managing for multiple uses.
It looked great, and it came out pretty much exactly how we had predicted it would look.
I mean, he couldn't have done a better job. I mean, it was, in our standpoint, in our view, it was very, very successful.
Every little thing I take pride in. If my name's on it, I want somebody to look at it and say, wow, they did a really good job.